Welcome back to another episode of College Hockey Talk. We are joined here today by rising sophomore forward from Northeastern, Katy Knoll. Katy, thank you so much for coming on, and how's it going?
It's going good. Quarantine has been treating me well lately. I've been able to get back on the ice a little bit and get back a little bit to normal, so things are looking up.
Well, that's good, and obviously, like you said, we're living in a very weird time with coronavirus, but what's it like to prepare for this upcoming season, and have you heard anything of what next year might look like in Hockey East?
Yeah, it's been difficult. It was a couple months off that may have been needed after a long season, but a little bit longer than I think a lot of us hockey players wanted. And getting back on the ice has been good. Preparing for the season, you just have to treat it like any other season. There's a lot of unknowns right now, so all that us players can do is really focus on what we can control, which is just sticking to our training program as long as we're able to do it and trying to get back on the ice. And we've heard a little bit about Hockey East specifically, but there's nothing for sure, and things are they're definitely going to be different. So it's going to be new. It's going to be exciting, hopefully, and I can't wait to get back on the ice.
Well, that's great. And growing up in New York, how did you start playing hockey?
So, yep, I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and my brother and my sister actually played, which is how I got into the sport. My dad was a big fan. The Sabres were very good back when he was in his teens and 20s probably. So he was very into hockey, and he got my siblings into it. So around 2.5, I was put into a pair of my siblings' skates, and they figured once I could walk up the stairs in the hard rubber skate guards that they should probably put me on the ice. So I started at a young age, and I haven't looked back.
And did you have any particular favorite player growing up, or was it just everybody?
I was a big Buffalo Sabres fan, so I went into school a little late, so I actually used to watch NHL on the fly for
Oh,
about
yeah,
four
I
hours
remember that.
for about four
Yeah.
hours straight in the morning. So I was a big Sabres fan. I'd say when I was really little, I was a big Maximo Finneganov fan. He was a good one to watch. And then as I kind of grew older, I kind of just almost looked for players who had the qualities that I wanted to have as a player. So it's a very broad spectrum. I like forwards. When I think of somebody in particular, it's difficult, but one of my more recent players that I like to watch is Brock Besser. I watched him, I remember, play college hockey. I think he was in one of the national championship games for that. And
Yeah,
then
2016.
it's fun to watch people that you've seen play through college kind of go into the NHL, and that's starting to happen with a bunch of kids my age. Who I used to play boys hockey when I was younger.
That's
So a
great.
lot of them have been getting drafted, and I'm sure a few of them will go into the NHL soon. So it's cool to kind of follow the younger kids, and it's been fun.
Yeah, I was a big Jason Pominville fan. I don't know if you remember him. He was great. So, um,
Yeah.
before Northeastern, you played for Nichols School. What was it like to play there?
It was a lot of fun. My sister played there for 3 or 4 years of high school, and Nichols is such a big hockey school, especially in Buffalo. And it was one of those decisions I had to make where I didn't necessarily want to leave home for high school, as I knew I was already going to be leaving home for university. So it was a big decision, but I loved playing. I played for 3 of my 4 years at Nichols, and then I actually opted out of playing my senior year in order to focus on I played up in Toronto. So I was commuting up there, and I decided I didn't really want to set that example for the younger players coming in on the Nichols team, where I could only make part of the stuff, and I didn't want to be that kind of leader to a bunch of young kids who were coming up and were going to be playing until they were seniors. So I decided not to play my senior year, which was really difficult because it's a good way to keep friends, especially when I was commuting so much to play up in Toronto. So it was difficult, but it was worth it. And the Nichols team still did great last year, and they did great this year as well. So it's also fun to look back and see how well they're doing still. And hopefully I can go back and visit soon.
Yeah, and you also played for the under-18 team for the U.S., where you earned a gold medal in 2018, and you scored 2 goals in the championship game. What was that experience like for you?
2018 was a whirlwind for me. So it was kind of a last minute call that I was being added to the team. I was an alternate for the festival that year in August. So not that I didn't think it could happen, but it was a pleasant surprise when I got a phone call. I'd say probably late November-ish in 2018 or 2017, actually, I think, that they told me I was named to the team that would be traveling to Russia. So that was a whirlwind. It was awesome to get there, and it was a great group of girls. And I'd say the championship game was crazy because usually it's a U.S.-Canada battle, but that year it was a U.S. for Sweden. So it was kind of untreaded territory for everybody. And I mean, you go into a championship game the same way you would against anybody, I guess. And it ended up working out in our favor. And to get a couple goals was a cherry on top.
And how'd you find out?
They called me actually. I actually had a practice for Nichols, and when I got into my car afterwards, I saw I had a voicemail from Reagan Carey, who used to be the head of women's hockey at USA Hockey. And so I called her back, and they informed me that I was going to be added to the team, which it was awesome. I mean, it kind of validated my decision to go play up in Toronto, as that was after I had played in Toronto my first season or for part of the season. So I had a really good start to the season up there, and I think that they were watching and they saw that, and I was fortunate enough to travel with them in 2018 and then also in 2019 when we went to Japan.
And going off my last question, what was it like to play in Dimitrov, Russia, and was there any culture shock you experienced there?
Yeah, a little bit. It was interesting. It was probably an hour and a half north of Moscow, so there wasn't really much around. It was very dark and gloomy. I'd say Russia was, at least the part I was in, was kind of like everyone pictures. It was kind of, you had to be very aware of where you were. You always stayed in groups and everything, but that's kind of like how it is in most other countries when you travel internationally, especially with a team. The food was a bit different. There was some struggles with getting people to eat food and just stay like nourished, just because we had to play at such a high level. But overall, I think we all adapted really well, and it was a really good experience, especially because I can't say I would travel to Russia other than to play hockey internationally. So it was a really cool experience, and then my whole family got to go as well. So it was nice to have them there too.
That's awesome. And what made you want to play for Northeastern back to college hockey now?
So I was getting recruited at a really young age, and Northeastern, it was my first visit actually, and it stood out to me. I knew that I was going to want to change up, and I wasn't necessarily sure that I wanted to be in a big city, but once I got there and I got on campus, I was pretty sure. It's funny. I remember talking with my parents on the visit, and I was like, guys, like, I think this is where I want to go. And they were like, Katie, you have about 3 or 4 more visits this week. Like, you don't know. This is only your first one. And it's weird because I look back on it, and I probably jumped a little too soon, like, thinking that, but it ended up being the right call almost. I visited a couple more schools I think I went over spring break.
Oh.
So, but Northeastern ended up being the one that felt the best. And at the end of my freshman year of high school, I decided to go there, and it's been the best decision I've made.
And you also got your first goal this past year against Syracuse. What was it like, and who did you call first?
It was awesome. I actually got a little bit of an injury in the first game, so I actually didn't know if I was going to be playing in the second game, and then I ended up just wrapping my shoulder up, and I played the second game, and then it was nice to get my first goal. And most of my family was there, so I didn't really have to call anybody. I had almost the whole squad was there. My brother, sister, mom, dad, and grandma were all there. So I let a couple of my friends know, but most of them knew before the game even ended. So I got a bunch of notifications on my phone when I got off the ice, which was nice. It's nice to have people following along, and it was awesome.
And coming into college hockey this year, what was the biggest adjustment you had to make?
I'd say overall, the biggest adjustment, I think for most people, is just the speed of the game. Not only just like physical speed, but you have to think at such a faster pace, and it's a real challenge. But I think it's something that once you practice and you do repetitions of, and it starts in practice too. Like, you get to college level, and the practices are just, they may be a bit shorter than youth hockey practices, but you're working all the time, and you get so much more out of it, in my opinion, that it's something that it's so helpful, and it's so refreshing. I think, not that youth hockey isn't all that, but I think jumping to college was really, I think it's awesome. And I think the speed of the game is the biggest thing. That was the transition. And I think that at most universities, but especially at Northeastern, there's a great support staff to help the incoming kids come in and really adjust, and they'll meet with you and they'll help you after. And it was awesome. But I think the speed of the game was the biggest thing for me, and as well as I think most incoming students.
And I was checking out some of your stats from this past season. You had a plus 28, one of the best plus minuses on the team. My question is, how do you get a good plus minus like that? Is it just being on the ice at the right time, or is there any secret to it?
That's part of it. I mean, obviously we're a very offensive team, and all of our lines can produce. So no matter who I was with, it was likely that any of the lines could score. So that's a good plus. But I think something that our whole team really focused on this year was our defensive zone. And I think that was key. I can't even tell you how many shutouts Erin had, because just between her and then our defense, we were able to lock down pretty good. So not a lot of minuses for anybody. But I think a lot of it is just also for an incoming player, it's a lot about having confidence, which I think I personally may have lacked at the beginning of the season, but it's about really using your teammates, who are the biggest support staff you can probably have, and kind of leaning on them when you need to, and then they'll help you. And I mean, my stats were great this year. I couldn't have asked for anything else, but it was more about the relationships I made and leaning on my teammates and really having that support staff, that I think all of that's how that happened.
You also got to participate in the women's Beanpot this year where Northeastern won. Talk about beating Boston University in the final and winning your first Beanpot.
The Beanpot was awesome. It's such a great memory to look back on. And it was always a good game. I think we played all 3 of our games against them for regular season before the Beanpot. So we knew exactly what we were heading into once we got past the first week. And just knowing the history behind the Beanpot, I didn't grow up locally, but I've always heard about the Beanpot. It was the big thing of Hockey East and in college hockey. And it's something that I've watched both the men's and the women's one before. And I can't even describe the feeling around it, and then to actually be a part of it. And Northeastern hasn't won it in a bit, so it was nice to bring that back home to Matthews. And it was a great feeling all around. It was something that our team, I think, will cherish forever.
And you also won the Hockey East championship this year as well. Northeastern scored 9 goals in that championship game. What was that experience like, winning the Hockey East championship?
It was a crazy weekend for sure. I mean, it was at Merrimack, and all the teams traveled in, and we had the banquet the night before. It was a great weekend overall. I think our real challenge was against Maine. We managed to pull through that game, and then the championship game, I think it was all about really proving that after that first period. I can't remember what the score was, but we kind of came back into the room and we were like, we're doing good. Like, I think we were winning. And we were all talking about how we know we can be better, though, and not settling for just being good enough to win the game. Like, we want to put on our best showing, and we want to just prove that we deserve to be where we are and we deserve to win. And I think the way all of our lines came out, and we just really put it to them, and I think it showed that we deserve where we were in the standings overall last year, and that we deserve to win that game. And it was awesome to kind of have our whole team come together during that game and really put on a show like that.
And your team was supposed to play in the NCAA Women's Tournament before everything got shut down. Where did you guys find out, and what was the reaction amongst your teammates?
Yeah, it was, if I'm recalling this correctly, we had a lift right before practice. It was a Thursday, I believe. And we had our lift like normal. Everyone was kind of talking around, and there had been rumors going here and there about it all. And so people were in between lift and practice. We had a good amount of time, since I believe it was recovery lift. So we had some people in our lounge that were just kind of like watching TV and maybe checking some phones. And eventually someone was just kind of like, guys, they canceled it. And everyone was just like, what are you talking about? But it was hard. And then some people had started getting dressed for practice, and it was tough because they told us to stop getting dressed, and we all kind of we sat in the room, and we knew that it probably had happened, that it probably was true. But until I think it came from our coaches, that's when it really set in that we wouldn't be playing on Saturday, and that the season, at least for then, like it was over. And it was tough. And I mean, I know a bunch of other teams had to go through it, and it was probably similar experiences, but just knowing the season we had, and it being my first season, I can't even imagine what it was like for our seniors. It's heartbreaking for them. And it was, after the season we had, we knew that we had the chance to go far and to really make our mark on NCAA tournament and really put Northeastern in a place where they may not have been in the past. So it was heartbreaking in that sense that we weren't able to do that.
Was it surreal, though, that you won your last game, though, as the Hockey East champions? And, like, most teams probably, like, lost or didn't even have, like, a real playoff setting for their last game.
Yeah, it was nice to know. But after that win, I think it was on a Sunday where we won Hockey East, it was, once Monday came around and once we started practicing again, preparing for NCAAs, it was it was back to normal was kind of, we almost forgot about that, and we were focused on the present, and we were focused on the upcoming game. And it was tough because, I mean, most teams, their season ends with like a loss, and it's just something that like, this happened, so your season's over. And it was kind of the sense that it was really hard to accept, because it's not like we lost or anything. It's not like we did anything wrong. It's not like our season should have ended. It was kind of just, it was the open end of it was really hard, I think, for a lot of us to accept, as is, I'm sure, many other teams. So I think, yeah, it was nice to have that win, but probably a day or so after, we had forgotten about it, and we were looking forward to NCAAs, and then just getting that canceled, that was tough.
Now, I've never had the chance to see your team play in person, but I have watched Northeastern women's hockey on TV before, and there's one player that sticks out to me a lot. Her name's Alina Mueller. She's probably one of the best hockey players I've ever seen. And I have to ask, what's it like to play with such a talented player, and what's she like as a teammate?
Yeah, Alina, she's awesome. So I'm sure you know, she's from Switzerland. She's been to the Olympics a couple times. No big deal, Alina. But she's amazing to play with, and she's such a great role model for everybody on the team, older, younger, just for hockey players in general. I think she's a great person to look up to. And I remember I spoke about her earlier in the year when she was up for the Patty Caz, and I'll say it again, she's just somebody who we all love to work for, and she loves to work for us. And it's just like, when you have people like that on the team, I think our whole team's almost like this, where we're so close that we all love working for each other. And I think that that's why we're so good. And I think she really embodies that whole characteristic of, she will work as hard as possible. She'll be the hardest working person on the ice if possible. And it's infectious almost. And just the extra work she puts in, she does extra lifts, and she'll stay out after practice. And you can tell all the work she's put in, and it's infectious. It makes you want to work harder, and it's awesome to see her get results on the ice. She's unreal in my opinion, and I got to play with her for a bit this year, and it was absolutely amazing the way she thinks about the game, the way she talks about it on the bench between shifts, and I can clearly see why she's had all the success she has. I mean, she works so hard for it, and the best part is that she's an even better person than a player, and that's the kind of people you want on your team. And she is one of the most humble people I know, which is awesome. And I consider her a great friend. So playing with her is absolutely unreal. It's about as great as anyone can imagine it. So.
Well, that's awesome. And now we're getting into the part of the podcast called the non-hockey segment, where I ask you non-hockey questions. And my first question is, on the USA Hockey website, it says your favorite TV show is Friends. Who do you think from that show would be the best hockey player?
Oh, interesting. I do like Friends. I actually rewatched it before it got taken off of Netflix with my roommate. Who would be the best hockey player? I'd have to say in the show it would probably be, I'd say Joey.
Yeah.
Or Chandler. Definitely not Ross, but I'd have to say Joey first. He seems like he'd be the sporty one. Chandler's a little uncoordinated.
Who is the funniest on the Northeastern women's hockey team?
Ooh, that's difficult. We have a lot of funny people, but I'd say Tessa Ward. She's hysterical. I mean, she can always crack a joke when someone needs it.
And who is the most polite on Northeastern hockey? Most
polite. We have a couple. I'd say Canadians are also known for being very polite. So I'd say that Megan Carter and Brooke Hobson are very polite, just from like all their Canadian mannerisms. But I mean, everyone's pretty polite, but I'd say those two are pretty polite.
What's your favorite part about the city of Boston?
I like the city of Boston. I mean, there's so much to do there, but also when you're on Northeastern's campus, it almost feels like you're not in the city. So it's kind of the best of both worlds for me. I'm trying to think of where I would normally go. I went down. We like to go to the North End for some Italian every once in a while.
Yeah, that's great.
So, yeah, and then I don't think I've been to Mike's Pastries yet this year. I was there a couple years ago, but then there's another pastry place. I can't remember what it is, but I went there once or twice.
Modern Pastry, that's pretty good. That's like the two big ones up in the North End.
Yeah, it's right by Mike's. It's the other pastry place. I went there. Yeah, it's very good.
And what music do you listen to before a game?
I like to switch it up. I mean, if I had a good game, maybe I'll keep that. I'm a little bit superstitious. So usually I listen to a remix of some sort. So like one of my go-tos is one of the Big Booty mixes. I like listening to those because then I don't have to bother with my phone. I can just turn it on and leave my phone in my dry stall and just have my headphones on. So those are good ones. But SoundCloud has a lot of good remixes. I rarely listen to just like individual songs, but every once in a while I may throw a playlist of like pop and rap on.
And getting back to some hockey questions now, what is your favorite road arena to play in Hockey East?
Ooh. Well, obviously there's no arena like Matthews. I love Matthews Arena, but if I had to choose, I'm trying to think of all the arenas we've played in. I remember Merrimack. It's not necessarily the biggest rink, but they had some really nice dressing rooms. Maine was nice. It was really far though, and I think they had a men's game that weekend also, so we had to walk down some steps to get onto the ice there in our skate guards, so that was interesting. New Hampshire. I'd say New Hampshire. It's big, so it's not necessarily full, but I like the bigger ice sheet.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good part of the game, and I think when we played them, we did really well on it. And I don't know, I like their arena. It's nice. They have nice dressing rooms too, so that's always a plus when you're an away team.
And another question I have is, what would you do to help grow women's college hockey?
I think that all us players can really do is kind of just keep working hard and paving the way for younger kids to obviously to come in and to aspire to play Division I hockey or just hockey in college at all. And I think playing hockey after college is what a lot of people want to do, and the fact that some people may not be able to do it that's heartbreaking a little bit. But I think all we can do is really work hard now and strive towards creating a way for college athletes now, as well as younger athletes who want to play in college and play after, strive to really create a good way for them to be able to play hockey after college, because it's something that I know I'd be very interested in and I'd want to do, but it's also to the point where women hockey players, it's not something that we can do like solely after college. It's not a good way to make money, and if you'll have to have another job usually, so which is difficult, and I understand why, and it's hard, but I mean all we can do now is work hard and kind of interact with younger kids like in the area. I wish things were opening up so that I could work with some younger camps and kind of work with younger players, because I think a big thing with younger players is once you interact with an older player, like a professional player, it's something that you can keep that personal experience with you, and that's something that motivates younger players. So I think that as female college hockey players, all we can do is kind of make sure that we are interacting with younger generations and kind of motivating them that if they want to play, that they should, and we will be working as hard as we can to kind of make a path for them.
And my last question is, what is your favorite hockey memory so far at Northeastern?
Ooh, that's tough. We had a lot of good ones this year. I mean, as you know, we had a great season. It was unimaginable coming in about all that could have happened, and it was kind of the best case scenario. I'd have to say Beanpot was a really good memory. It was kind of the cherry on top. Kind of clinching the regular season Hockey East title was also really cool. I don't think anyone's done it as early as we have. So that was a great memory. But if I had to pick just one, I'd say Beanpot. I think it was really special for our whole team. Not that everything else wasn't, but it was special to do it, especially against BU, and to really bring it back home. And it's a big thing in Boston with all those schools. So it was awesome to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Katy, for coming on and discussing your college hockey experience. I wish you and your team the best of luck in the future, and hopefully I get to see you guys in person sometime play.
Yes, thank you very much for having me.
Have a nice day.
You as well. Bye.